Chapter 7. The Grand Empress of Savannah. An unnatural calm descended over Jones Street after Joe Odom's move to Oglethorpe Avenue. No longer could Joe's sweet serenade be heard floating over the garden walls. In the stillness, it occurred to me that it was time to buy a car. I wanted to see more of the environs of Savannah, but I proceeded carefully in the matter of wheels. Savannahans drove fast. They also liked to carry their cocktails with them when they drove. According to the National Institute of Alcoholism and Alcohol Abuse, more than 8% of Savannah's adults were known alcoholics, which may have accounted for the disturbing tendency of motorists to run up over the curb and collide with trees. The trunks of all but one of the 27 oaks that lined the edge of Forsyth Park on Whittaker Street, for example, had deep scars at fender level. One tree had been hit so many times it had a sizable hollow scooped out of the trunk. The hollow was filled with pea-sized crystals of headlight glass that glittered like a bowl of diamonds. The palm tree in the centre of Victory Drive had the same sort of scars, and so did the oaks on Abercorn. I had never owned a car. Living in New York, I hadn't needed one, but the idea appealed to me now. If I was going to drive a car in this environment, though, it would have to be a very big and heavy one. It would probably have fins. "I'm in the market for an old car," I said to Joe. "Something big and roomy, nothing fancy." An hour later, we stood looking at a 1973 Pontiac Grand Prix. Its metallic gold body was dented and flecked with rust. The windshield was cracked, the vinyl roof was peeling, the hubcaps were missing, and the engine was well into its second 100,000 miles. But it ran well enough, and it was big. It did not have fins, but its hood was so long it looked like the foredeck of an ocean liner. The man was asking $800. "It's perfect," I said. "I'll take it." Now I was completely mobile. I drove south of Gaston Street, breaking Joe's second rule. I took excursions into South Carolina. I sailed past the trees with scars on them and shared the road with drivers who sipped from traveller cups and lurched from lane to lane. I felt perfectly safe in my rolling metal fortress, dented and rusted as it was. Nothing and no one could get to me, and nothing and no one did, with one very notable exception. Her name was Chablis. When I first laid eyes on her, Chablis was standing by the curb, watching me intently as I parked the car. She had just come out of Dr. Myra Bishop's office across the street from where I lived. Dr. Bishop was a family practitioner. Most of her patients were conservatively dressed black women. Those whose gaze happened to meet mine usually nodded solemnly and moved on, but not Chablis. She was wearing a loose white cotton blouse, jeans and white tennis sneakers. Her hair was short and her skin was a smooth milk chocolate. Her eyes were large and expressive, all the more so because they were staring directly into mine. She had both hands on her hips and a sassy half smile on her face, as if she had been waiting for me. I drew up to the curb and rolled to a stop at her feet. "Ooh, child," she said. "You are right on time, honey." Her voice crackled. Her hoop earrings jangled. "I am serious. I cannot tell you." She began moving toward me with an undulating walk. She trailed an index finger sensuously along the fender, feeling the hollow of every dent. "Yes, child. Yes, yes, yes." She walked on past me and continued all the way around the car, inspecting its condition and laughing. When she got back around to me, she leaned in the window. "Tell me something, honey," she said. How come a white boy like you is driving an old broken down jive-ass Bruthar heap like this? If you don't mind me asking. It's my first car, I said. Oh, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. If I did, I'm sorry. I truly am. I didn't mean to do that. I'll just call it out, baby. Whatever way I see it, I'll just call it out. No, that's okay, I said. I'm just practicing my driving skills before I go out and buy a Rolls Royce. All right, honey, I can dig it. You are traveling in disguise, baby. You are incognito. Yeah, I can dig that, child. I surely can. And you know, honey, when you drive a car like this, you don't get nobody fucking with it. Ain't no stereo for nobody to rip off. Ain't no fine paint job for somebody to scratch up with their keys, honey. That's true too, I said, opening the door to get out. Oh, child, don't you be doing that, she said. Don't you be hauling ass with me standing out here like this. But I live here, I said. That's okay, baby. You can practice your driving skills some more on the way to taking me home, okay? 'Cause Miss Myra's shots is getting ready to kick in, honey. I can feel them. I am serious. And these feet are about to be wore out. There seemed to be no doubt in the young woman's mind that I would take her home. I mumbled something on the order of, well, sure, but it was unnecessary because she was already getting in the car when I did. I live downtown by Crawford Square, she said. Won't take but a few minutes. She settled into the seat and looked at me. Ooh, child, you are some kind of handsome. If my boyfriend wasn't living with me, I would hit on you for sure. I am serious. I like my white boys, and that's what I have plenty of waiting for me at home, thank goodness. My boyfriend is blonde and beautiful. Hunk for days, honey. He satisfies my every need. We pulled away from the curb. I'm Chablis, she said. Chablis? That's pretty, I said. What's your full name? The Lady Chablis, she said. She turned sideways in the seat, pulling her knees up and leaning back against the door as if she was sinking into a luxurious sofa. It's a stage name, she said. I'm a showgirl. She was beautiful, seductively beautiful, in a streetwise way. Her big eyes sparkled, her skin glowed. A broken incisor tooth punctuated her smile and gave her a naughty look. I dance, I do lip sync, and I MC, she said. Shit like that. My mama got the name Chablis off a wine bottle. She didn't think it up for me, though. It was supposed to be for my sister. Mama got pregnant when I was 16, and she wanted a little girl. She was going to name her La Quinta Chablis. But then she had a miscarriage. And I said, ooh, Chablis. That's nice. I like that name. And Mama said, then take it, baby. Just call yourself Chablis from now on. So ever since then, I've been Chablis. A cool white wine for a cool black girl, I said. Yes, child. What was your name before that? I asked. Frank, she said. We had stopped for the light at Liberty Street. I looked at Chablis again, very carefully this time. She had a small, feminine frame and delicate hands and arms. She carried herself like a woman. There was nothing masculine about her. Her big, dark eyes were watching me. I told you I could dig being in disguise, she said. I'm in disguise 24 hours a day. I am incognito. So you're really a man, I said. No, she said. Don't you be calling me no man. Honey. Your mama worked too hard to grow her titties. She ain't no man. Chablis unbuttoned her blouse and proudly revealed a medium-sized, perfectly shaped breast. This is real, honey. It ain't silicone. It's what Dr. Bishop's shots do for me. Miss Myra gives me estrogen shots, female hormones, every 2 weeks. and in between I take estrogen pills. They give me breasts and soften my voice. They slow down the growth of the hair on my face. They make my body smooth all over. Chablis slid her hand down from her breast down into her lap. And my candy shrinks, honey, but I still have it. I ain't having no operation, child. I ain't studying that. We were now crossing Liberty Street. Chablis' blouse was still wide open, exposing her breast, not only to me but to half a dozen pedestrians. I had no idea how far she intended to go, but I feared the worst. I kept one eye on the traffic, the other on her. The back of my neck began to feel warm. You don't have to show me your candy, I said. Not here, I mean, not now, or ever. Chablis laughed. Oh, I'm embarrassing you. I'm making you all nervous. No, not really, I said. Child, don't lie to me. Your face is turning red. She began to button up her blouse. Don't worry, I ain't no stripper. At least now, I know you ain't going to be calling me no man. We pulled into Crawford Square, one of the 2 squares in Savannah that fell within the black section of town. Of the city's 21 squares, it was one of the smallest and most picturesque. It was surrounded by humble wooden buildings. In its centre, instead of a monument or fountain, there was a small playground. A huge, gnarled live oak spread its branches across a small basketball court where several boys were playing. Chablis pointed to a nearby restored 4-story wooden house on the far side of the square. Yes, child, she said. Miss Myra's shots are starting to do their thing. I'm feeling that boost of energy. I'm getting that surge of femininity. Gotta go be with my boyfriend now, 'cause in a couple hours I'm gonna feel like the bitch of all time. That always happens too. I get to feeling like the last bitch on earth, and until that passes I cannot stand to be touched. Chablis stepped out of the car. Thank you for being my chauffeur and everything, she said. My pleasure, I said. You should come and see the show sometime. I put my face on and get into my gowns. I'd like to see that. 'Cause right now, you see, I'm just little old Chablis. Just a simple girl. But when I get it together, I turn into the Lady Chablis. And I'm good, child, real good. I'm a pageant queen, you see. I've been crowned in 4 beauty pageants. I got titles, lots of them. Right now, you are looking at the Grand Empress of Savannah. That's who you had in your car today. Well, I'm honored, I said. Miss Gay Georgia, too. I won that one also. And Miss Gay Dixieland and Miss Gay World. I've been all of them, honey. I am serious, child. The Grand Empress turned and ascended the steps of her house. As she did, she put an extra measure of swing into her hips, an extra bounce in her stride. It was not until I was halfway home that I realised Chablis had forgotten to tell me where she performed her act. If I put the slightest effort into it, I could have found out. In a town the size of Savannah, there could not have been more than a couple of night spots that featured drag shows. But I let it go. Not that Chablis didn't fascinate me, she haunted me. And she was definitely a she, not a he. I felt no tendency to stumble self-consciously over pronouns in her case. She had removed any trace of masculinity, and in that sexual limbo of hers, she was a disturbing presence, one that challenged the all-natural responses. A few weeks later, the telephone rang mid-morning. Oh, child, I am some kind of mad at you. You ain't come to see my show. Is this Chablis? I asked. Yes, honey. I've just been to Miss Myra for my feminine booster shot. Would you like a ride home? I asked. Well, yes. I guess I done trained you right. I came downstairs and we got in the car. I would have come to see you, I said, but you didn't tell me where you did your show. I didn't? She said. I'm at the pickup, honey. There's a gay bar on Congress Street, 3 nights a week. Me and 3 other girls. You may not be into drag shows, but you'll never know the real Chablis till you see me shake my butt and run my mouth up on that stage. And the way things are going, you ain't gonna get the chance to see much longer. Why not? I asked. 'Cause I'm fixing to read my boss, and I might even do it during the show tonight. I always say what comes into my head, and I never know who or what it's going to be about. Anyhow, my boss ain't top of my list right now. Him and me are about to have words. On the subject of what? I asked. Money. My salary is $250 a week, but I ain't complaining about that, because it's only for 3 nights' work, and with the tips, it just gives me enough to live on. But I'm the only one that gets a regular salary. The other girls get $12.50 per show, and that's damn pitiful. Last week, 2 shows had to be cancelled when the DJ didn't show up, and we were standing there with our faces all made up and our gowns zipped, and our boss didn't give those girls a dime. Old child, he's gonna hear from me. And when he does, ain't no telling. My ass could be out the door. What will you do then? Make guest appearances. I can get bookings in Atlanta, Jacksonville, Columbia, Mobile, Montgomery, all those places. The South is one big drag show, honey, and they all know the lady. They all know the doll. Chablis looked coyly at me. So, if I get my ass fired tonight, child, you're gonna have to travel if you want to see me do my shit. Then I guess I'd better go to the pickup tonight, I said. I guess you better had, honey. Chablis touched my arm as we drew up in front of her house. Look over there, she said. There's something I want to show you. A young blonde man was leaning under the hood of an old car. He was stripped to the waist. His muscular torso was smudged with grease and glistening with perspiration. 2 boys sat on the curb watching him work on the car. That's my boyfriend, said Chablis. That's Jeff. He's the one I told you about. Come on, I want you to meet him. This, then, was the one who, as Chablis had put it, satisfied her every need. It was hard to imagine exactly what those needs might be. Harder still to envision what sort of a person would satisfy them. Yet apparently here he was. By all outward appearances, he was normal, even wholesome. He broke into a broad grin when he saw Chablis. I think the trouble's the alternator, sugar, he said. He wiped his hands on his pants. I'll get it working tomorrow, and we can take a spin. Chablis hooked a finger through his belt and pulled him in towards her. She kissed his neck. It's okay if you can't fix it, baby, she said. We got us a new chauffeur and limo. Say hello. Jeff smiled. Hey, he said. You better watch yourself, or Chablis is likely to start running your life too. But I guess worse things could happen to you. He slipped his arm around Chablis' waist. Chablis put her chin on his shoulder and looked into his blue eyes. You ready for lunch, baby? Jeff cupped his hand around her buttock and squeezed it. I already ate, he said. She leaned into his body. You know you ain't done eating yet, honey. Soon as I get this engine running, I'll come in, I promise. You go on ahead. Chablis turned away with a mock pout. My engine's already running, baby, but that's okay. You go and play with your car. I'll be having lunch with my new chauffeur. She linked her arm in mine. Come on, child, keep me company. I was so taken by the situation at this point, I could not even polite a I was so taken with the situation at this point that I could not even muster a polite refusal. I gave in at once, and after a few moments we were sitting in Chablis' living room, having a plate of tuna salad and a glass of Coca-Cola. The apartment was light and airy and comfortably furnished. The front windows looked out through the foliage of a magnificent oak onto the square. There were 2 matador prints on the wall, a shag rug on the floor, and an Aretha Franklin record playing softly on the radio. From the sofa where she sat, Chablis could look out a side window and see Jeff working on his car in the street below. "My baby treats me like a goddess," she said. "He leaves me little notes all over the house saying how much he loves me. And I tell you, he is some kind of good up under them covers. The man is out to please, honey, and he does just that to the doll." Chablis stirred the ice in her Coke with her finger. "He's straight, you know. He's not gay. He attracts both men and women, but he's only into women. Of course, my friends say, well, how can he be straight if he goes with you? And I say, as long as I'm getting my fair share, I ain't going to be asking why." She took a sip of her Coke and licked her lips. "What sort of men do you attract?" I asked. "That depends on what's going on with me and my hormone shots. I've gone on them and off them, and they make a big difference. When I'm on them, I attract very masculine men. Men with girlfriends, men with wives and children. When I go off them for a while, my masculinity comes back a little, and I get to feeling like a tomboy. That's when I attract the gays. Parts of me get excited that usually don't. When I'm in my tomboy mode, watch out, 'cause I play with everybody, even the nelliest fags. If I think they're cute, I'm gonna tease them and everything. There are times when I can be really butch." As she said this, Chablis leaned forward and put her elbows on her knees. The cadence in her voice became more clipped, and the muscles in her face tightened. She moved her head and the shoulders now with the jauntiness of a boxer. For the first time, the boy inside her came out to the surface. "But then I go back to Miss Myra, honey, and I get a hormone refill. I become female again, and I attract the masculine men." She settled back into the sofa. The lines in her face softened as I watched, and her body became languid again. The boy vanished. Chablis was Chablis again. She smiled. "I don't overdo the hormones," she said. "When I get too much of them, I don't climax. So I get off them now and then just to relieve the tension. I don't like to be lifeless down there. I take just enough hormones to give me that feminine glow and keep the chest on me." Chablis went into the bedroom and came back carrying a black dress and a cigar box full of bugle beads. "You don't mind if I do a little sewing, do you, honey?" She threaded a short string of beads and stitched it into the dress. "A girl's got a sparkle." She shook the dress. Hundreds of bugle beads swayed and glittered. She strung some more beads and then looked up from her threading. "Ever put on a dress?" "No," I said. "Never even wanted to?" "No." "Well, honey, I never wanted to wear anything else. I've been into women's clothes so long, I have no idea what men's size I am. I'm serious. I gave up on men's clothes when I was 16. Started putting on makeup and wearing little earrings to school and slacks and blouses. For me, it was a natural thing to do. I was always effeminate, and I was always called a sissy or a fag or a girl. So I didn't feel like I had anything to hide. I just liked girls' clothes. How did your family take all this? I asked. My mother and father were divorced when I was 5. I grew up with my mother, and I would visit my father up north every summer. He hated the way I was. His whole side of the family hated me. When he died, I went to his funeral in a dress, and I had this gorgeous white boy on my arm. They were appalled, honey. They were horrified, especially my aunt. She started in on me at the funeral in front of everybody, and I told her to get out of my face, or I'd say something about her own son she might not want to hear. So I stay away from that side of the family, honey. I don't clientele with them. Clientele? Yeah, or I don't have anything to do with them. I don't mess with them. Mama's different though. She had a big old photograph of me being crowned Miss World, and it's hanging in her living room. She told me not to worry about the things that don't matter. She has a motto that I love. 2 tears in a bucket. Motherfuck it. That's Mama. She's an okay girl. Chablis turned up the sound on Aretha Franklin and held the dress up to herself as she stood before a full-length mirror. She churned her hips in time to the music. The beads bounced. Yes, honey, when the drums roll, the bugle beads flow. Look at them beads, baby, flawless. She turned towards me again. You sure you never wanted to wear a dress? Yes, I'm sure, I said. What makes you think I would? Oh, nothing. But you never can tell. That much I've learned, honey. I used to go to straight parties in Atlanta. They'd pay me $100. I'd be announced at the door, as Tina Turner or Donna Summer. Then I'd mix with the guests. Everybody knew I was really a drag queen. But I'd look like Tina or Donna, because I'd be wearing a wig. I'd talk like Chablis, though. And I'd have a good time, and so would they. Anyway, these gorgeous macho men would show up and ask me for my phone number, and ooh, I'd get all excited. Then, a couple of days later, they would call for a date. Well, honey, come to find out most of them really wanted me to dress them up in pantyhose and walk all over them in high-heeled shoes. So you never can tell, child. You never know. When I see a gorgeous hunk, honey, I don't assume nothing. More men are into dresses than you would think. Us up-front drag queens is just the tip of the iceberg. Just the teeniest tip. Do you ever feel like going out in the street in a suit and tie? I asked, just for the hell of it. If I went out without my drag, honey, those rednecks would clock me for the big sissy I am and kick my ass. I am serious. I'd be more paranoid out of drag than in it. But there's something else that does worry me. Here in Savannah, I mean. Know what that is? Walking down the street as a couple with a white boy. That makes me paranoid in Savannah. Don't you ever date blacks? Don't you ever go to black bars? No, I don't go up in there, child. That's something Mama don't play. I don't play up in them black bars, baby. Black boys will hit on you just like that, and the minute you walk in. They try to make a move on you, and hey mama, you, and honey, you to death. I don't play that. Black boys are so aggressive, honey. There's nothing for them to come up and start touching you and hitting on you and stuff, even if you're with somebody. Oh, I know black boys have their points, honey. I had a white roommate in Atlanta once, a real girl. She loved black men. You know how those white girls get when they get a piece of black dick, honey. Black dick will wear you out. It'll make you want to write all your checks.